We're doing Edexcel Pure Maths 2, Year 1. And in this, we are doing our trigonometric functions. So we are solving the first part, that is angle in all four quadrants. It relates to 6.1. So when I'm talking about angles in all four quadrants, I know this is my x-axis and we know this is my y-axis. Since we know this, we also know that this is our first quadrant, this is the second quadrant, this is the third quadrant, and this is the fourth quadrant. So we are talking about angles in all four quadrants. Let's start with some examples. If O is my center, this is my x-axis, and my x-axis, I would say O up till this point is x, and I draw a 90-degree over here. Okay, and from the radius I take a point on the circumference of the circle and I name this point P, that is x and y. This angle makes a 90-degree over here. This is the x, my hypotenuse is 1, and this would be my theta. So let's talk about our theta first. If my angle is over here, this is 0 degree and this is 90 degree. This is 0 degree and this is 90 degree. So when we talk about our theta, first we would find sine theta, cos theta, and tan theta. So I say my sine theta is opposite over the hypotenuse. So my opposite is y and the hypotenuse is 1. So my sine theta would be the y coordinate of P. This. Okay. If I talk about the cos theta, cos, I hope you know the SOHCAHTOA. Sine is opposite upon hypotenuse. Cos is adjacent upon hypotenuse and tan is opposite over the adjacent. So if I'm talking about my cos theta, it would be the adjacent. The adjacent is this x over the hypotenuse 1. So cos theta would be the x coordinate. X coordinate of P. And when I talk about my tan theta is opposite over adjacent. So it would be y over x. So it would be y over x. So for any theta in the quadrant, the sine theta would be the y coordinate, cos theta would be the x coordinate, and the tan theta would be the y and the x coordinate. You should also know that this is 0 degree, this is 90 degree, this would be 180 degree. So if I'm going from here 0 to here, it becomes 90. If I go from 90, another rotation over here, it is 180. If I continue it further, this would become 270 and then this would become 360. So the sine theta would be the y coordinate of P, cos theta would be the x coordinate of P, and tan theta is y over x. We did this by applying the SOHCAHTOA. If you see very properly over here, the x coordinate would be positive and the y, because it is over here in the first quadrant, the y coordinate is also positive. So the sine theta would also be positive, cos theta would also be positive, and tan theta, that is y by x, this is also going to be positive. So this is in the first quadrant when my angle is between 0 to 90 degree. Okay, let's take and go to the second quadrant. So how does my second quadrant look like? We will again plot our points. This is 0, 90, 180, and 270. How do I draw this? I would draw a line from the origin to the circumference and then draw a straight line. So this would be 90 degree. This would be theta. Now I'm going to name it as another point, that is a x, y. If I look at the x coordinate of this angle, the x coordinate is going to be negative and the y coordinate is going to be positive. Let's talk about sine theta. Sine theta would be, this is 1, this is x, and this is y. Sine theta, opposite upon hypotenuse, it's always the y coordinate, so it would be y. Cos theta, cos theta is the x coordinate, and I would say my x coordinate is negative, so this is going to be minus x. And tan theta, which is sine over cos, so it's going to be y over minus x. So it is going to be minus y by x. Similarly, I want you to pause the video and try to find your sine theta, cos theta, and tan theta when your angle is between 180 to 270 and when your angle is between 270 to 360. Please note that when it is between 180 to 270, it will lie over here. And when it is from 270 to 360, it will lie over here. We look at this rotation. This is 0. This is 90. This is 180. And this is 270. This would become 360 again. If I go further another round, so this is going to be 360. 360 plus 90. So again, this would be from 360 to 450. Then if it is from 450 to 90, so this would be 540 plus another 90, 630. So if your angle is 620 degree, it is going to lie in this quadrant. This is the first quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, and the fourth quadrant. So you can pause the video and try to find your theta between 180 to 270 degree. How would you plot the point? Between 270 to 360 degree, how would you plot the point? Now if I see the angle between 180 to 270 degree, this is going to be 0, 90, 180, and this is going to be 270. I want the angle between 180 to 270 degree. So I take a line from O. I will draw this over here and a 90-degree angle. So this would be my theta. This is my hypotenuse 1. This is my opposite y. And this is my x. I'm putting the point T over here, x and y coordinate, where the x is negative and the y is also negative. Okay, now I would draw theta. It is so ka toa. So it is opposite upon hypotenuse, adjacent upon hypotenuse, and opposite upon adjacent. If I look over opposite over the hypotenuse, theta, the opposite is y. For cos, the adjacent is x. And for tan, it would be y by x. So the y is negative. Sin theta would be negative in my third quadrant. Cos theta would also be negative in my third quadrant. And tan theta would be positive in my third quadrant. If I look at the x and y coordinates very clearly, very properly, you could see that In the first quadrant, my x coordinate is 1 and y coordinate would be 0 over here. At 90 degree, x would be 0 and y is 1. At 180 degree, my x is minus 1 and the y would be 0. And at 270, x is 0 and y is minus 1. So these are the coordinates of the points. Now look at 270 to 360. I will again plot 9, 18, 27, 3, 6, 9. No, this is 0, 9, 18. This would be 27. Okay. Here I'll put the x and y's also. So this would be 1 minus 1 x, y would be 0. And over here, x would be 0. It's the y axis. So y would be 1 minus 1. How would I draw it? I will take a point. I'm naming this point C. This would be my 90 degree. This would be my theta. Okay. This is my x and this is my y. So sine theta, opposite upon hypotenuse, adjacent upon hypotenuse, and for tan it would be opposite upon adjacent. So in my fourth quadrant, my sine theta would be opposite over the hypotenuse, which is always 1. So it's going to be the y coordinate, x comma y. The x coordinate is positive and the y coordinate is negative. So it's going to be the y coordinate and it is going to be negative. For cos, it is adjacent, that is my x coordinate, and my x coordinate is positive. And for tan, it is going to be y over the x, so it is going to be negative. So with this, I come up with the rule of the CAST, which gives me angles in all four quadrants. If I'm talking about the angles in all four quadrants, here all angles would be positive in the first quadrant. Here the sine would be positive. In the third quadrant, your tan would be positive, and in your fourth quadrant, your cos would be positive. Let's check. CAST. In the first quadrant, all will be positive because x and y both is positive. In the second quadrant, that is between 90 to 180, we'll label it 0, 9, 180, 270, 360. Then you put your CAST. So this is CAST. In your second quadrant, your sign would be positive. Okay, only the sign would be positive. If you see, only the y coordinate is positive, x is negative. So this is always the y, this is x, and this is y by x. So sign is positive, x is negative. Between 180 to 270, which lies in the third quadrant, all is negative. Only t, this is the CAST. So over here, your tan is positive. Only the tan is positive. You see the x is also negative and the y is also negative. The fourth quadrant, that is between 270 to 360. 270 to 360. X is positive and y is negative. Only the cos is positive. So x is positive, y is negative. Even the tan is negative. So only the cos is positive. Cos is always x, sine is always y, tan is y by x. Cos is positive, all is positive, sine is positive, and tan is positive. CAST. This is the first quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, and the fourth quadrant. Let's try with some sums. This is called the unit circle. Why do we call it as a unit circle? Because we can extend it to greater angles also. If I say greater angles, that means you keep on adding 90. So 360 plus 90. So becomes 450. And I would have angles between 360 to 450 over here. You add another 90, 540. So you have angles between 450 to 540 here. You add another 90, 540 plus 90. So you have angles between 540 to 630 over here. So this would lie in the third quadrant. So as per the question, you can keep on manipulating. Now let's look at some examples. Angles in all four quadrants. First, second, third, and fourth. You should know that this is 0, 90, 180, 270. You would write the x and y coordinate also over here on this line. X coordinate would be 1, y coordinates would be 0. And in this line, x coordinate is 0, y coordinate on top 1, down minus 1. Sine, sine is always the y coordinate, cos is always the x coordinate, and tan would be always the y over the x. I want to find sine 270. Sine 270 would lie over here. Sine is the y coordinate, so sine 270 is going to be minus 1. Cos 90, cos is the x coordinate, it lies over here. All angles is positive over here, so cos 90 is going to be 0. Sine 270, it is going to be minus 1. Okay, here only the tan is positive. Sine 540. Now I don't know where 540 is. So this is the unit circle. I will keep on adding 90 to see where my 540 comes. So 360 plus 90. So this is 450 plus 90. So this is going to be 540. Finding sine 540 over here. Okay, sine 540 is over here. Over here only the sign is positive. Sine is y 0. Sine 540 0. Tan 180 again over here. It lies in the second quadrant between 90 to 180. Over here only the sign is positive. Tan is going to be y by x. So 0 by minus 1. So it is going to be 0. Cos minus 180. Now when I have a negative, I go in the opposite direction. When I have a minus, I go in the opposite direction. I do not go like this. Rather, I will go like this. So this would be 0. This would be minus 90. This would be minus 80. So between minus 90 to minus 180, I have cos 180. Cos is always the x coordinate. So cos minus 180 is minus 1. Now one for you to try. After you try, you will write down your answers and check your answers as well, which will be down. So with this we cover angles in all four quadrants. You should know if it's negative, it will go from down. If it's positive, it goes from up. And we also remember the cast rule. Here, Only cos is positive. In the first quadrant, all angles are positive. In the second, only sine is positive. In the third, only tan is positive. Sine would always be the y coordinate, cos would be the x coordinate, and tan would be the y by x. You should also know the 1 and 0 rule. Here, the horizontal line, x axis is 1 and y axis is 0. And in the y axis, x axis would be x coordinate would be 0 and the y coordinate would be 1 and minus 1.